Bueno, creo que ya podemos comenzar.
Okay, I think we can start.
Muy buenos días a todos. Damos
Good
inicio a la
morning,
sesión.
everyone.
Les
We
doy la
begin
bienvenida a
this
este webinar que
session
hemos
and we
organizado en
welcome you
colaboración
to
con el
this webinar
GSM.
that we have organized.
Bueno, vamos a silenciar a algunos participantes.
Okay, we will
Mi nombre es Claudia
close
Gómez,
some microphones.
Marketing
My name is
Manager
Claudia
de
Gomez.
U.S.
I'm
America y
marketing
será un
manager
gusto
of
acompañarles
US
hoy
Wheat
en
South
esta
America, and
sesión.
it will be a pleasure
El
to be
tema de
with all
hoy
of
se
you in this
programa
session. The
GSM 102
theme
del
today
Departamento
is
de
the
Agricultura de
GSM
Estados Unidos,
102 program
USDA.
backed by
Durante
the
esta sesión
USDA in the US.
revisaremos
During
cómo
this
funciona este
session, we will
programa y
review
de
how
qué
this
manera
program
puede
works
apoyar a
and how it
importadores a
can
la financiación de
support
operaciones de compra de
importers
trigo
to
de Estados
finance
Unidos. Antes de
purchases of wheat
comenzar,
from the
les
US.
recordamos que la
Before we
presentación
begin,
será
we
en
remind you
inglés
that the
y contará
presentation
con
will be
traducción
made in English
simultánea al
and
español.
we have
Para escuchar la
simultaneous translation
traducción, por
into
favor,
Spanish. To
seleccione el
listen to the
canal
translation,
correspondiente
please select
en
the
Zoom. Y
corresponding
también
channel
los
in
dejamos,
Zoom,
los
and
invitamos a
we
dejar sus preguntas
also
en el
invite
chat
you
que
to
espero se pueda
leave
activar.
your
En su
Q&A
defecto,
in the chat
podemos
that I hope
hacerlas
we will
verbal
have
al
ready
final de la
at the
sesión.
end of the
Hoy nos
session.
acompaña Robert Pearl,
Today we have
CEO
with
de
us
Green Seed
Robert Pearl,
Financial,
CEO
que es una
of
empresa especializada en la
GSF,
estructuración de soluciones
specialized in
financieras
structuring
para el
financial
comercio agrícola.
solutions for
Robert compartirá una mirada
agricultural
práctica sobre
trade.
el
He will
funcionamiento del
share
programa, sus
with us a
beneficios y los
practical
pasos
overview of the benefits
que
and the
se deben
steps
considerar para
that
evaluar
must
esta
be
herramienta.
considered to
Robert, muchas
evaluate this
gracias
tool.
por
Robert, thank you
acompañarnos.
very much
Bienvenido
for
y
being with
adelante,
us.
por favor.
Welcome, and you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Claudia. And thank you all for attending. No, I had a call with Miguel and Claudia about a month ago to initially introduce this topic, and we all decided together that it would be a great tool to introduce to you all. So I'm very happy to have the opportunity. And again, I'm excited to jump right into it. So I will share my screen and make sure that we have the presentation up. Okay. So everyone can see this?
Yes.
Perfectamente, Robert. Gracias.
Great. Well, again, thank you all for joining. Again, my name is Robert Pearl, CEO of Green Seed Financial. I'll give you a little background on me so you understand more of who I am and why I'm coming into this and why I'm so passionate about GSM 102. So for the most part of the last 3 years, I've actually been living out in Asia, Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam specifically, but my main background is actually in aquaculture. Shrimp genetics is really where I've done a lot of my business. And the GSM 102 program, I learned about as soon as I moved out there, maybe a couple weeks after I finally moved out to Vietnam. And I was sitting there in this conference, and this guy from the USDA gets up on stage and he starts talking about GSM 102, export credit programs. It was not the most entertaining presentation I'd ever watched, but I was saying, okay, this is something that us as a US exporter of shrimp genetics, we have to find out how to utilize because in our industry, it's very difficult, right? And financing is a huge portion of where the problems can arise. So how I came into it was we used to offer shrimp genetics, require full payment upfront, send the animals to Vietnam. They would then receive the animals. Once they received it, there would be about a 40-day acclimation period. This period, of course, comes with costs. There is feed, electricity, water, standard things to get the animals prepared to produce the PLs, the baby shrimp, for them to distribute them to the farmers in their area. What happens, though, is that farmers will take these animals and rush the acclimation process. This, in turn, hurting the mom and dads, but also the babies are coming out weaker. And the persons who really suffered from this were the farmers who were buying the babies, which came back bad on our genetics. And obviously, we wanted to find ways to help. So with the GSM 102 program, we were then able to offer 6-month letters of credit, no payment the first 89 days, covering their whole acclimation period. And again, working with them on that 40-day time span to say, hey, we can provide tools and financing to help make your lives easier. After about a couple years of doing shrimp genetic trades with this program, I said, if I had to focus on shrimp every day the rest of my life, I might go crazy. How do I work in all these other value chains? Because I see the benefit for the importer. I saw the benefit for the exporter as well. And I simply wanted to connect more people with tools available to them to, again, execute more deals and work more collaboration between both the exporter and the importer parties. So that's my background going into it. I'm going to go jump right into the GSM 102 program right now. I'll start off by saying this. This is going to be an eagle's eye view of it. Obviously, all of you will have individual questions relating to your own companies, and I'm happy to address them either at the end of the call, or if you feel comfortable talking to me afterwards, I'm more than happy to set up an individual call with you and your teams to see just how we can utilize this program for your specific operations. So with that, I'll move forward. So what is the GSM 102 program? Well, it started back in 1981 with the intention of using it for food aid and for companies like your ABCDs who are saying, hey, I want to sell soy to Kenya. How do I know I'm going to get paid? So the USDA came out with this program to instigate more of that trade and traffic. The general thesis behind it is that there is a USDA payment guarantee on the export of U.S. agricultural goods. What that allows is, again, for U.S. exporters to engage in trade with new importers, recurring customers, or go to new countries with that protection from the government saying, hey, we'll cover between 98 and 100% of this total contract to allow you to offer the letter of credit. The letter of credit can be extended up to 18 months. What most banks tend to do is in that 6 to 12-month range is where they feel more comfortable. But for larger volumes of transactions, 18 months is certainly something that is eligible under the program. One of the benefits to using GSM 102 is it also limits the importer's international payment cycle. So all these transactions will flow through a local approved bank in Latin America where they have been approved by the USDA and you are paying them directly. So as you're not sending money to the US or anything like that. Currently, right now in Latin America, there are 38 eligible countries, all of the major Latin American markets, with the exclusion of Brazil. The program is directed, again, towards finding new and more developing markets to say, hey, there's business to be done out there. Our exporters need protection to go through with these deals. Let's use this tool to, again, find a way to execute more of these transactions. So I mentioned, again, that this program is used heavily in Latin America. These numbers are from June 8th. But as you see, there are 3 eligible regions for GSM 102. Asia last year got about $1 billion. Africa last year got about $1 billion. And Latin America last year got a little more than 3. Latin America is the heaviest user of the program, with most of these deals going through Mexico. However, there is significant upside and opportunity with the program in Latin America, as where only half of the available allotment actually gets utilized. And with 57 banks approved in country, there are certainly a lot of different connections that can be made to find the right path for you. And obviously, I'm going to try and keep it Latin American centric during this presentation. But the other regions like Asia, they get $1 billion last year. They used maybe 200 million. The AMTCCA, that's Africa, Middle East, and Turkey, Caucasus, and Central Asia. Again, they get $1 billion, where they only used about 60 million of it last year. So when I started Greenseed, I said, there's clearly opportunity for this program. Why aren't more people utilizing it? And really, it comes down to 2 factors. First is marketing and awareness. You can't use the tools in your belt if you don't know that they exist, right? When I was working with the shrimp genetics, Why am I finding out about this program halfway around the world in Vietnam when we've been exporting since 2016 at a conference in 2023? So it's just simple marketing and understanding that these tools are available for the utilization of exporters and importers to their benefit. The other part of that is that now that you know about the tool, it's a little bit difficult to execute if you've never done one before. So there is that little bit of a hurdle that companies like Green Seed Financial come in and help both importers and exporters execute the deals that are available to both sides. So this is, again, a bird's eye view graphic of a GSM 102 transaction. Let's say we have a situation here where we have a U.S. exporter of wheat who is looking to enter Mexico, let's say. And they'll have a contract in place for $1 million with a letter of credit between 6, 12, 18 months. I'll use 6 months as my baseline here. So what'll happen is we'll have the U.S. exporter and the foreign importer come to an agreement on this contract. Again, all the details will be outlined, and the U.S. exporter will submit that contract to the USDA. What the USDA looks at for these deals is 2 checkboxes. 1, is this a U.S. product? And 2, will this increase U.S. exports? As long as those 2 boxes are checked, there will be a guarantee between 98 and 100%, depending on the country that's doing the deal, for the total cost of the transaction. So once that U.S. exporter has that guarantee in place, they can move ahead with the deal. That guarantee, what I encourage U.S. exporters to do is they have 2 options. They can either hold on to it themselves, offer the terms of financing to you, the importer, and then at the end of the whatever is outlined, 6, 12, 18 months, if there's lack of payment, they will then be able to submit that back to the USDA for, again, the 98 to 100% allotted amount. The second option, which I actually think is much better on the exporter side, is they will be working with a U.S. bank as well during these transactions. So I mentioned earlier, these transactions can get a little complex with all the moving pieces and parties if you've never done one before. To successfully execute one of these deals, there are 5 main players who have to be involved. That is your U.S. exporter, your foreign importer, your U.S. bank, your foreign bank, and the USDA. Oftentimes, we'll see hurdles with the foreign bank simply because it's a U.S. exporter-driven program, and they're going to be reaching out to new bank clientele, new bank customers, and the responsiveness is where people say, am I really going to push for 4 weeks here without response and keep asking, or am I just going to find another way to do this deal, even though this tool may be exactly what they're looking for? So all these reasons are why the program is underutilized, like I mentioned before. But back to the actual chain of the transaction. So what the U.S. exporter can do once they have that guarantee from the USDA is they can apply that to the U.S. bank that they're working with on this deal. Now that the U.S. bank has the guarantee in their possession, this allows them to pay the U.S. exporter on or around the day of shipping. So as soon as the BOL is supplied to the U.S. bank for the exporter, they will send them the funds for the cost of the transaction. So for the U.S. exporter side, what they are now in the position to do is offer terms of financing without having to wait 6, 12, 18 months to guarantee this payment. So that is the big benefit for them. Now, for the importer side, once the goods are shipped and they arrive in the importing country's destination, that's when their clock starts. So if there is a 6-month letter of credit with no payment the first 89 days, and on day 90 and on day 180, you're making 50% payments, your timeline starts as soon as you receive these goods, right? Your payments will be made directly to the foreign bank that is approved. And after, again, the 6 months, the foreign bank will then repay the U.S. bank for the total cost of the transaction. The program is designed to obviously increase U.S. exporter possibilities and opportunities. But, in my history of doing the program, if I'm an importer right now in Vietnam, let's say, and I go to my local bank saying, hey, I need to open a letter of credit to import $100,000 worth of shrimp root stock, it becomes a very short conversation usually, and it ends with no. What the program actually does is it incentivizes the foreign banks to work with the foreign importers in getting access to this financing, allowing you guys to bring in U.S. wheat under terms that make it easy for your business to still operate and not have to worry about cash flow constraints due to payment. You can bring in the wheat, you can process it, you can sell it, and then you can worry about the repayment of the initial inputs. So again, how it works for the importer specifically, you guys will be signing your sales contract where you're agreeing on volume and price with your U.S. wheat supplier, specific commodity, grade, delivery port, obviously everything that's needed to have a proper sales contract is in place. You will confirm your GSM 102 eligibility for your market. Again, just making sure you're in one of the countries that is approved to receive these programs. There's 38 currently in Latin America, so plenty of eligible destinations. Afterwards, your bank will issue the LC to you. So, and after that, of course, the terms are already dictated. Green Seed Financial will structure the guarantee typically for a lot of the importers and exporters that we're working with, making sure all documentation is in line with what the USDA is looking for, getting the banks coordinated. These are all hurdles and reasons why transactions don't go through. And so what we do, again, is take ownership over all these specific actions that need to be taken. Then the wheat will ship. You guys will receive it, and you will repay over the timeline that was, again, indicated in the initial sales contract. You can purchase, one of the key benefits here is you're able to purchase larger volumes of U.S. wheat today without buying full capital up front. Your bank will carry the obligation backed by the U.S. government, again, making sure, of course, that you guys are paying, but again, there's protection for the U.S. exporter to still want to make a lot of these deals happen. So Latin America specifically, again, there's $3.2 billion in this current fiscal year of 2026, with a current capacity around $2 billion. There are 57 approved banks throughout the region, and 38 eligible countries from Mexico to Patagonia to lots more. Latin America is the most active GSM 102 region globally, and a big part of that comes from simply Mexico being one of our closest neighbors, and they are using the program a lot. That's actually, I'm here right now in Monterrey because USDA had an event here to talk about GSM 102 and different export opportunities to see how we can improve trade relations between us and Canada as well. So the program right now, I'll touch on the banks a little bit also here too. With the bank side, to get yours approved, if you're working with not one of the 57 that are approved, there's about a 2-week timeline to get a new bank to an approved bank. All that they have to do is be based in a approved country as dictated by the CCC, which is the banking side of the USDA, essentially, where they will look at the bank and just make sure that they're eligible and trustworthy. Of course, they only want to be adding good quality banks, but 57 for 38 different countries is also not that many. So they're constantly looking to add more. So if you are working with different banks that aren't on the approved list, getting them approved is an easy way to start the process, at least, and say, hey, there's an opportunity to use this tool. Let's get our bank approved to make sure that when we want to use it, we can actually access it. So again, I mentioned that there are 38 eligible countries across the region. Almost every single major market is covered, of course, with the exception of Brazil. But between Central America, South America, the Caribbean, and smaller islands and territories, there is no shortage of places to say, hey, we can utilize financing in some of these smaller markets to the benefit of the importer. I will say with the foreign banking side, this is a new change that the USDA just added, where if you're a foreign bank, let's say, and again, Mexico is the use case I'll use because I'm here right now, but they currently have 2 banks that are approved. Again, not that much for such a large country, but if you are an importer in, let's say, Guatemala, you can utilize the Mexican banks for facilitation of your deals as long as you are willing to open an account and be a customer with the Mexican banks. It may be easier to get a local bank approved, and again, that's a process that's easy to do, but they're really trying to open up access to this program in the market simply by allowing more banks to cover larger regions. And actually, I believe that there's going to be a new change where the banks are actually going to be able to approve transactions globally. Again, this is all in an effort to get more access to the program to those who need it. So this is a slide I usually show to the exporters, but I think for the importing side, it's also important to know who exactly am I in this strategic pathway for using this program. Because when I look at the GSM 102 program and I say it's underutilized, well, there are reasons for that. And it sort of has to do also with the sales process of identifying who are the customers that are going to benefit most from this. And again, how do I actually market the program effectively? So if I'm an importer, I want to look at myself and say, which one of these 3 buckets do I currently fall in? And where does my benefit actually align with the program? The first one is probably the most recognizable, where you're talking established high volume markets. So Philippines has longstanding U.S. wheat relations. These are situations where the importer and the exporter know each other. They know their business. You know theirs. If there is a need for financing or tools to help with the process, that is where we can utilize a program like GSM 102. Additionally, if you're an emerging growth market, you will have a need for an increase in U.S. wheat coming to your country, but there aren't a lot of relations made, or you're looking to work with a new supplier. This is where we can use the program as sort of a guarantee to, again, offer protection to the U.S. exporter while working to export to this new and emerging market. When the last one is going to be processing capacity gap. So I was currently working on a deal with Cote d'Ivoire rice milling importer conglomerate or group. And what their situation is that the local market is producing about 10% of the rice necessary to fill their processing capacity. What that doesn't, so obviously that's not enough, right? So the solution is to bring in paddy rice from the U.S., unprocessed rice, to again fill that processing side of the business, allowing it to keep going while the local market can start increasing the production levels and get to a level where they can actually be self-sustaining. But again, they don't want that processing side of the business to sit still. So they use the GSM 102 program to bring in more US-based rice, again, to make sure that supplies don't just come to a stop. So again, knowing exactly where I align with this program and how it benefits me is really one of the best ways to go about saying, how can we use this in our own sales strategy? how can we develop this program as a real tool to make sure that we're constantly getting access to the best U.S. wheat products that we can. So much of what agriculture is in general is playing with the margins, right? And no one's really in a position to say no to deals that may be long-term beneficial simply because financing isn't there. That should not be the limiting factor. Programs like this are a way to, again, access that financing and still offer the U.S. exporter plenty of upside as well, based off of their ability to get paid on day of shipment. So if I were one of the importers, I would go to my exporter or the partner I've been working with and saying, hey, why isn't this something we've used in the past? Why isn't something we've heard of before? The big companies, the ABCDs, they all know about it. They have teams who are in place to do this stuff. But for some of the smaller and medium-sized enterprises, tools like this can be the difference between a good season and a really great season. And again, you want to access all the tools available to you when running your business. So again, what it means for your business specifically, it allows you to preserve working capital. You're bringing in shipments of wheat, utilizing it, selling it before actually having to start paying for it. Allows you to scale purchase volumes, lock in wheat supply, strengthening your supplier relations, gives you and your bank a more familiarity with the process because you're working closer together. And again, this is a fully structured and compliant process that is used for a lot of different products out there. Obviously, this is the Wheat Association, so I'm going to talk mostly about that. But there are so many HS codes that are eligible for this. Again, from shrimp genetics to wheat to soy, corn, beer, wine, finished products. There's so many different possibilities. So when, again, maybe after the call, I have individual meetings with some of your importers to speak again about, let's look at your exact position in the value chain and where exactly can we see the benefit of this program. So I have a little use case here. You're a wheat importer in Colombia. You want to structure a GSM 102 transaction. Currently, you're sourcing 5,000 metric tons of U.S. hard red winter wheat quarterly, but you want to increase your order size because you have more processing capacity now. Your local bank can issue the LC, but they want the U.S. government backing before extending this larger credit. So the solution, of course, comes down to GSM 102. You work out a deal for $1.2 million shipment of 8,000 metric tons, 12 months, semi-annual payments. 98% of the value will be guaranteed to the U.S. exporter. Your bank will issue the letter of credit to the importer. There is a USDA fee associated with this transaction. Of course, it's going to be a small, almost nominal percent most of the time. Of course, on a $1.2 million transaction, you're talking a little less than $4,000 of a fee. So certainly nothing to walk away from the deal from. But I do like to note it because, again, it is part of the transaction, and that's how the USDA benefits from this program as well. The exporter ships and receives the payment at shipment. The importer will repay in 2 installments over 12 months, to which at the end of that, the transaction cycle is complete, and you can move on to the next one. So now you're able to source larger, consistent U.S. wheat volumes competitively with no additional equity deployed. So this is a very basic example. There are lots of different ways that you can spin it when it comes to the tenor of the repayments and such like that. But overall, this is a good overview of it. So where does Green Seed Financial come into this? Again, we work with importers and exporters and some foreign banks as well in the structuring and utilization of GSM 102, along with some other financial tools that the USDA offers to help execute trade, like FGP, which is Facilities Guaranteed Portion. Even though it's currently under pause right now, It's something that operates extremely similar to GSM 102, but focuses more on facilities. So you're thinking silos, or you're thinking I need a truck to pick up my shipment of wheat, some containers or something like that. It's all the facilities and equipment necessary to execute more U.S. deals. It's currently on pause, but I like to bring it up anyways because I hear every now and again, oh, maybe next month, maybe the month after. I like to be ready and prepared because, again, it's the same process. But what we'll do is we'll help identify and qualify the transactions themselves. So confirm the eligibility for the importer via your country and commodity. We have contacts with the approved banks, so we will initiate those. If you have a bank, again, that you want to bring into the program, more than happy to execute that sort of arrangement. Aligning the structures between regional suppliers and buying entities, and then assessing the viable tenors, essentially making sure that this deal makes sense for all parties involved. Then we structure and document, make sure all the USDA applications are in on time, coordinate the letter of credit, shipping timelines, and everything that comes with structuring the deal, and then finally executing and expanding off of that. Usually what happens is someone will execute the first time, say, hey, this works. Let's try it again. But maybe there's another product we want to try it with, or can we use it for this side of our business? So it's really an expansion off of that, saying, we know this tool is here, we know it exists. Let's figure out the best way to utilize it for our internal operations. So the repayment options here, I have some of the flexible tenors that they have outlined on the USDA website. So annual repayment options, 9, 12, 15, 18 months. Semi-annual repayments, 3, 4, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 months. There are a lot of ways to do these deals. One of the things that they do in Asia and Africa region is called a bullet repayment option. It's not currently eligible in Latin America, but there are talks that it will be. What this allows is full repayment at the end of 18 months. So there's no half payments, third payments along the line. It's simply bring in the goods. Year and a half later, you guys can fully repay the transaction cost. So again, why we source the U.S. wheat under GSM 102? Consistent quality and grades. It's a very high quality product. And when I talk about agriculture, usually it comes down to controlling what you can control, right? For shrimp farming, you can control your water, you can control your feed and inputs, and you can control the animals you put in your pond. Everything else is out of your control. Between disease, natural disaster, climate change. I mean, our farm got hit by 3 hurricanes over the last 2 years. Nothing we can do about that. But we know that we have to control those other 3 aspects, and that means bringing in the best inputs possible. Financing should not be the limiting factor to doing so. Year-round availability, competitive pricing, which again can be played with under the GSM 102 program, USDA regulatory backing. There's an established trade infrastructure here, and there's preferred supplier relationships. Between all these factors, Latin America can be bringing in as much U.S. wheat as they want. This tool, GSM 102, could be the opportunity for new people to do so, to bring in larger quantities. There's a lot of upside to figuring out how to utilize this program in everyone's individual value chains. So now you understand a little bit more about the tool, how to access it. I have my contact information here, and I'm sure that we'll share this presentation after the event. And I want to thank you all for your time. But afterwards, what we can all do is, again, look at your own internal operations and say, is this a program that works for us? Where can we identify use cases in our value chain? And I'm happy to walk through this with all of you guys in a more personal scale, and again, see exactly where you can benefit from it. But thank you all again for the time. I do appreciate it. I know it's valuable. And again, I hope to hear from all of you after this, but If there are questions, I believe that's the next slide. So yeah, happy to talk a little bit more. If anyone has anything that they want to open up, or if there was comments in the chat, I don't know, I couldn't see it. But yeah, Claudia, that was the presentation on my end. So again, thank you all very much.
Muchas gracias, Robert, por tu presentación.
Thank you very much, Robert, for your
Muy práctica.
presentation. Very
Podemos ver que la
practical.
herramienta realmente es muy
We can see that
valiosa
the
y que
tool is
puede
really
ser
very valuable and
utilizada
it
por los
can be
compradores
used
en Sudamérica.
by wheat
Sí, vamos a
buyers
dar inicio
in
entonces
South
a la
America.
sección de
So we
preguntas y
will begin the
respuestas.
Q&A question now.
Lamentablemente, por algún motivo que
Unfortunately,
desconozco,
for
el chat no
some
está
reason,
funcionando,
the chat
pero
is
lo
not
vamos a hacer
working.
más entretenido
But
y quien quiera hacer una pregunta puede marcar
if you
acá
want to
levantando su
ask a
mano y
question,
habilitando
please
el
raise your
micrófono.
hand and
Y lo hace en voz
open your
alta. Nosotros
microphone.
estamos aquí para apoyar en todo el
So we are
proceso.
here to help you with this
Liliana,
process.
¿tú tienes una pregunta?
Liliana, do you have a
Liliana
question?
Palomino.
Liliana Palomino, do you have a
Should I?
question?
Okay, should be in English, right, Claudia?
Lo voy a hacer en
Yes,
inglés,
you
Claudia.
can do it in English.
Well,
If you do it in English, you have to connect in the English channel.
okay, voy a hablar español mejor, así como
Okay,
tenemos
I will speak
translation.
Spanish.
Okay, Robert, vi en
All
una de
right,
tus
Robert,
láminas
I saw in one of your slides
que en los países elegibles
that
no está
in the
Venezuela.
eligible countries, Venezuela is not part of the eligible countries.
¿Qué me puedes decir al respecto?
What can you
Aquí
tell
ya
us about this?
en este país ya se ha usado el programa
In
GSM
this
102.
country, we've already used the GSM 102 program.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct. In the past, GSM 102 had been done in Venezuela. I know of a couple parties who have done it for Apple exports there. However, and again, this is with my most recent conversations with the USDA, it wasn't a market right now that, with everything going on in a global sense of it, in a political sense, that was one that they were necessarily looking to do more transactions with. Of course, as soon as it opens back up, the process is ready to go. So I think that they're just waiting for the right timing to reintroduce and say this is now something that we're eligible to do here again.
Muchas gracias, Liliana. Gracias, Robert.
Eso me sorprende mucho porque,
Okay,
Robert,
this is a
porque
surprise,
verdaderamente
Robert,
nosotros estamos
because
promoviendo
really
este programa
we are
y hay
promoting
muchos
this
interesados en el
program, and
sector
there are
trigo.
many people
Venezuela
interested
importa
in the
mucho trigo de Estados
wheat
Unidos y
sector.
bueno,
We
está
import a
bien,
lot of wheat
esperaremos el
from the
momento
US.
correcto.
Okay,
Muchas
so we'll
gracias.
wait for the right
Gracias,
moment.
Liliana.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Liliana.
Yeah, of course. And Liliana, one more thing that I'll note on that is I'm happy to go back and discuss a little bit further about the Venezuela market with the USDA and again get their take on it. I'm happy to push a little bit harder on that because I agree there's a lot of opportunity there, and I want to make sure that you guys can access the tools that can really help you all succeed. So I'm happy to reach out after this and push back on a little bit more information and share it with you all.
Excelente, Robert. Siempre ten en
Excellent,
consideración que
Robert.
ya Venezuela no tiene
Always
sanciones
consider
financieras
that Venezuela
por parte
has
de
no
los
more
Estados Unidos y el
financial
mercado está
sanctions on
totalmente
the part of
abierto
the
para
US,
inversiones.
and the market is
Gracias.
totally open for investments. Thank you very
Muchas
much.
gracias, Liliana. Gracias, Robert.
Perfect.
Comentarles que la sesión está siendo grabada.
The
así que
session
esta va a
is
estar disponible
being
después en nuestro canal de YouTube, por si quieren
recorded,
consultarla
so you can
posteriormente
go on our
con mayor
YouTube
tranquilidad.
channel if you want to check
¿Tenemos
it
alguna
later.
otra pregunta? Son todas
Do we have any
bienvenidas.
other
Basta con que
questions?
habiliten
You're
su
all
micrófono
welcome.
y la
Just
puedan
open your
realizar
microphone
directamente
and you can ask the
a
question
Robert.
on the microphone
Perfectamente puede ser
directly
en
to
español
Robert.
y si
It
por
can
ejemplo
be
quieren
done
hacerlo en
in
inglés,
Spanish
también es
or in
bienvenido.
English if you wish also.
Bueno, en el intertanto, yo tengo una
Well,
pregunta
in
para
between,
Robert.
I have one question for
Y,
Robert.
una consulta a Robert. ¿Qué información debería
What
tener preparada
information
un
should
importador
the
para
importer
evaluar
have
una posible
ready
operación? ¿Y
to
cuál sería como
assess
el
a
primer
possible
paso práctico
operation?
para
And what
poder
would be the
utilizar este
first
programa?
practical step to use this program?
Yeah, no. So for the importer themselves, there is no registration that they have to put in place for themselves. The only party who has to be registered to use the program is the U.S. exporter, and that's with the USDA. For the importer themselves, all that needs to happen is that they are, in good credit standing with their local bank, who they're working with on the deal, the one based in Latin America. Or if they don't have a bank that's approved in country, it's opening up an account with a new bank that is approved. So that's always the first step. And that's, again, something that I do on a more personal level with everyone's individual situations and saying, here's the closest bank to you. Maybe we have one that we can get approved, but that's usually the first hurdle when it comes to executing these deals. Getting the foreign bank on board and online and communicative, that's usually a good starting place. After that, it's again talking about it with your exporter. The program's been around for a very long time, but again, these small, medium-sized companies have not been really in place to utilize it. So what we look to do instead, so what we look to do again is get both the exporter and the importer on the same page, making sure that they are both aware of the responsibilities that each will take in this transaction. So again, just having that conversation with all the necessary parties is usually the first good step.
Excelente, Robert. Muchas gracias.
Excellent, Robert.
Bueno,
Thank
esta es
you.
una herramienta que hemos estado promoviendo
This is
desde
a
ya hace
tool that
varios
we have
años
been
en diferentes
promoting
instancias
for
como
many
webinars y otro tipo
years
de conferencias, pero sí hemos
and
detectado
in
que
many
no
webinars,
es
but
fácil de
we have
entender, no es
seen that
fácil de,
it's
como de
not easy to
acceder en una
understand,
primera
it's not
instancia, como en
easy
un
to
primer paso.
access
Así es que la invitación
the
está
tool. So
para
the
que puedan
invitation
contactar
is
a
there
Robert. Él es
for
un
you to
experto en estas
contact
materias, si
Robert
necesitan apoyo
in this regard
de
if you need
asesoría
any
de deal inicial y
support in
luego para hacer la
terms
operación, si también lo
of
desean. Robert es
assessment.
un
Robert
excelente contacto como para poder proceder
is
con
a
el
great
programa.
contact to be able to use his program.
¿Tenemos alguna pregunta?
Do
Todas
we
son
have
bienvenidas.
any other questions? You're welcome to ask questions.
José Buenaño, que tú tienes
José
habilitado tu
Buenaño,
micrófono. ¿O Jacqueline?
your microphone is open. Do you have a question?
En Ecuador,
Vamos con
¿qué bancos son
José
elegibles?
primero.
Sí. Robert, en Ecuador, ¿qué bancos son elegibles?
Robert, in Ecuador, what banks are eligible?
Yeah, let me, I can pull that up for you right now. I should have had the slide here that has all the banks outlined. If you give me 1 second here, I'm happy to pull it up. But Ecuador, yeah, if we go back to the map here, there might be other people also look at it too. So give me 1 second here, and I will give you that answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I apologize again. That's normally a slide I have up here, but I must have missed
Tranquilo,
it.
Robert. Tenemos tiempo.
So in Ecuador, we have two banks that are approved, Banco Guayaquil and Banco Pichincha. So I'm guessing that those are two of the larger banks in Ecuador. If that's not one of the ones that you utilize, of course, there is a process to get new banks onboarded. Ecuador was actually one of the first places that we started doing shrimp business. So I'm more than eager to go back there, find reasons to. So maybe wheat's going to be the purpose.
Excelente.
And since you mentioned that with the two banks there, it does raise up another interesting point that for initial transactions with these banks, what we're typically going to be looking at are the importers paying interest rates based off of the tenors, right? Since Ecuador has two banks, they're in a better position. But if you look at a country like Chile, they have four banks that are approved, similar to Vietnam. What I would do in that situation is go to the primary bank and say, hey, we want to do this deal. Here's expected flow, not only for this year, but if we can find a way to consistently utilize it for projected, right? See how much business we can do with it. Based off that, I would then go, based off what the foreign bank tells me, I would then go to the other approved banks and say, hey, here's our deal. We need you to beat this. We need you to give us better interest rate. We need you to give us better collateral requirement. And usually after one or two successful transactions, that becomes a leverage point that you can negotiate. Obviously, it helps to have more than one bank approved in your country. Ecuador has two, so you can do it at a smaller scale, but that is also why I encourage, if you have bank contacts, let's get them approved, because in the long run, it becomes much easier to access this tool on the best terms possible for the importer side.
Ok.
Excelente. Gracias, Robert. Jacqueline, adelante, por
Jacqueline,
favor.
you
Sí,
have a question?
muchas gracias por la
Thank you
conferencia.
for your
Estuvo muy buena.
presentation. It was great.
Mi consulta es la siguiente.
The question
Para
is the
validar,
following.
digamos,
To
al
validate
importador en este caso
the importer in this
y el
case
banco,
and the bank,
¿hay alguna documentación
is
que
there
se
any
solicita
documentation that is
solo el
needed,
hecho que
or
nosotros
just the
tengamos
fact
líneas
that
disponibles
we
en los
have
bancos es
credit
suficiente?
lines
Esa es mi
available in the
pregunta.
banks
Muchas
is
gracias.
enough? Is that enough? Thank you. That's my question.
Yeah, good question. Correct. All you'll need to do is be in good standing with this bank, have an open credit line. Honestly, what I've talked about with some importers, there was a lumber importer in Vietnam that I was working with for a little bit. And what they were looking at was their current credit line had reached capacity. But with the GSM 102 program being folded in, it allowed them to actually borrow more. There are certain internal tools within these banks in terms of foreign borrowing capacity that they're very hesitant to reach the limits of. But this program actually circumvents that. It goes around it because they're acting as the intermediary between the U.S. bank and the importer. So they are simply facilitating the deal on the U.S. bank's behalf. So all that you guys, again, would have to do was be in good relation with your bank, having an open line of credit, and then having the conversation with them, getting it all coordinated, which again is something that I have these conversations with the banks pretty frequently, and I'm always happy to be on those calls to coordinate and facilitate.
Perfecto, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Jacqueline. Robert,
Thank you, Jacqueline, for your question.
tenemos algunos minutos más por si
We have a
alguien
few
desea
more
hacer una
minutes.
pregunta.
If you wish to ask another question, you're welcome to.
Por favor, adelante, Jacqueline.
Me surgió la
Yeah,
siguiente
I
duda.
just thought of another question.
En el caso, por ejemplo, que
In the
una línea no
case
sea
that a
suficiente
line of credit is not enough,
y el beneficio principal de esto es que
and
uno
the main
podría traer
benefit
un
of
volumen
this is
mayor,
that we
¿cierto?
could bring a higher volume, right?
Importar un volumen mayor en este
Import
caso, en el
higher
caso de los
volume
suelos
in
de
this
urea sería el
case
trigo.
would be
Mi consulta
for
es la
wheat.
siguiente,
So
¿se
the
pueden
question
consolidar
is,
dos bancos?
can we consolidate two banks? Can we join two banks?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question and one that I haven't necessarily looked too much into. What I think it would be easiest, depending again on the country that you're located in, is maybe just opening up an account with a second bank. And for instance, if you're in Ecuador, right, and you've hit your credit limit with Banco Guayaquil, maybe just opening up a secondary account with Banco Pichincha would make it a little bit more feasible to do the transactions that way. So that's usually the route that the importers I've worked with have gone. But it's certainly interesting. I'm happy to take a closer look again at your specific situation after this call to give a little bit more specific guidance, I'd say.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Gracias a ti, Jacqueline. Excelente.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
pregunta.
Excellent questions.
Veamos, Robert, si tenemos alguna otra.
Okay,
otra
let's
pregunta.
see if we have more questions
Tenemos un
now.
momento.
Let's give them a few more seconds, minutes.
Al parecer no tenemos más
Well,
preguntas.
apparently there are
today.
no more questions, Robert, for today.
Bueno, nada más recordarles,
Just
invitarles
to
a que
remind
contacten a Robert
everyone to get in touch with Robert to be able to assess this tool. He's an expert in this tool. We are always available to support you in anything you need in terms of information of the program. We are at your disposal also. Robert, thank you very much once again for this excellent presentation, very practical, very useful, and I'm sure it will be very useful for many of the people that are here with us today. So we now close this webinar. Thank you all for being with us and have an excellent day. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Robert. Gracias, Claudia.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Claudia.
No problema. Mil gracias para todos.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.